Utter chaos.
Eyes burning.
It's a zoo in here, isn't it?
It's a zoo.
If I can't take a shower, it's going to be ugly.
Local tap water, not safe for drinking, cooking, bathing, or even washing dishes.
There you go.
Charleston, West Virginia area residents knew something was wrong when their water started smelling like licorice.
Pretty stressful with the kids and can't hardly cook, you know.
Stephanie Keaton and thousands of others flocked to water distribution sites all across the area since they can't turn on the tap at home.
The leak happened just about a mile north of the state's largest water treatment plant. The material, a foaming agent used to clean coal, began leaking from a 48,000-gallon storage tank at Freedom Industries, a chemical manufacturer.
This incident is extremely unfortunate, unanticipated, and we are very, very sorry for the disruption to everybody's daily life that this incident has caused.
While the tainted water is not considered deadly, some people have had stronger symptoms or reactions to it than others. Residents are still advised to stay away from the water, and there's no word yet on when it will be safe for drinking.
This event started on Twitter with Governor Earl Ray Tomlin's initial tweet a little after 5:30 that day. And it became a Twitter event. It became a social media event. And I think it's one of the best examples I've seen of the way social media very quickly engages large numbers of people and can give quick snippets of information, updates to a continuing story in a very effective way. I was live on the air when the governor's first tweet went out basically announcing that this had happened. And at first, we didn't really know what that meant. I was on the set, I was anchoring, as I said, and so I immediately sent a note to our assignment editor and said, check into this, let's see what this is. And finished anchoring the rest of that segment of the newscast. During the commercial break, came out, checked in, we'd gotten a little more information. We'd confirmed that yes, this came from the governor's office and it is a do not use order, which is different than a boil water advisory, which is, I think, what a lot of people maybe wondered at first. Is this just a boil water advisory? We get those all the time. And it quickly became clear this was not a boil water advisory. This was something much more serious. So as soon as we got through the next segment, I was with Spencer Adkins, our chief meteorologist, on the air, and he had wrapped up his forecast, and I said, Spencer, we need to let people know we've just received this information from the governor's office. It's a do not use the water order for a number of counties in our viewing area. The challenge for us was figuring out the information we were seeing on Twitter. Was it accurate? And how could we verify it before we then shared it with our larger audience? And I think it really showed us how important it is to monitor and verify. And we did a lot of that in the days and weeks around the water crisis.
I think West Virginia Public Broadcasting established itself in the digital and social media sphere in some capacity because of the chemical spill. The role of Twitter was, it's impossible to imagine what that situation would have been like without social media, especially Twitter. I think we jumped in following by the hundreds as the days went on. And again, that was a mix of methods of aggregating or retweeting certain trustworthy sources or blasting out information about where water would be available, clean water would be available. It's impossible to imagine what it would be like without it. It's like, journalists aren't scientists necessarily. We take what they say and try to distill it down, which is oftentimes really, really difficult work. It was difficult work during the chemical spill in Charleston. It's a challenge with this project with the riffles and the sensors, the Streamlab project. But I think that basic data can be something that we can discuss. Well, we can look at this data and say, there's something here that we want to look into more. The specifics of it will lead us to something else, or lead us to ask other questions of scientists, or try to take our own data collection farther.
Well, so there's a couple of things
that limit, so there's a couple of things that limit the value of science. And most notable among those is transferring that information, making that information become part of everyday life. Again, scientists are not exceptionally good communicators. We learn to communicate with scientists, which is great, very huge, very important in terms of driving science forward, because scientists communicate with each other and keep pushing each other forward as we make discoveries. But when we make that transition and try to communicate that information that we know is very valuable to the public, it can be difficult because we're not trained in those communication. Over here then in the College of Media, students are trained to communicate with citizens, with people, but communicating science can be difficult because you don't fully understand the science in order to communicate it. And that's a huge part of it. So there's this barrier that often exists. And the project through the College of Media is, while the science is not necessarily innovative, what's innovative is that as media experts begin to do science, begin to understand the science, and their ability to communicate that science increases, regardless of the value of the science. And so that is crazy valuable over time. And, you know, as a scientist, something I'm extremely excited about.